A very good evening and welcome to episode 3 of My Story. It's an opportunity during lockdown to get to know members of the St. James congregation in a way that perhaps we haven't already known them. And tonight I'm delighted to be joined by our guest, Les Sacre. Good evening, Les.
Good evening, Biddy. How are you?
I'm very well. Yeah, yourself?
Yeah, fine, thanks.
Good. So, look, to explain to folk, we've not really talked at any length as to how we're going to kind of explore your story tonight. We're just going to take it chronologically and see where it goes. I put on record that I've known you probably, Les, for 25 years, something like that.
That's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say about that. And there, but yeah, I'm sure there's a great deal I don't know about you, and I'm looking forward to having a kind of no holds barred chat, the two of us. So no questions are off record. We had a brief chat before we went on air, and so we're just going to go from start to now and see where it takes us. If you'd like to get involved tonight, you're most welcome. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Of course, if you're watching this on Watchback, your comments won't make a difference. But if you'd like to pass comment, then please do. Just tap away there on the keyboard. And also at the end, maybe think of some questions you'd like to put to Les, because we're going to be able to bring people in and they can come on live with myself and Les as well, and maybe say hello or ask a question. So Les, let's start at the beginning then, I guess. What era? I don't want to be too pointed about it, but what decade were you born in, and whereabouts were you growing up?
Yeah, I was born in 1942, and that was at Catterick Camp, Richmond, Yorkshire.
Okay, Richmond in Yorkshire.
Yeah, my dad was in the army at Catterick Camp.
Okay. And sorry, did you say what decade?
1942.
1942.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1942 in Yorkshire. What was life like then? A very different time, of course.
Well, yeah. And during the war, not that I remember 1942, obviously, but in fact, my first memory is the first day we moved into Ashford and Middlesex in 1947. I don't remember anything before then. So.
And what took the family?
My twin sister does, but then girls tend to remember things longer ago than boys, don't they? They tend to.
I guess so. What took you guys to Ashford in Middlesex from Yorkshire?
Well, we didn't go direct. We went via Stroud Green. My dad, when he came out of the army, he'd been a regular. He decided he would become a schoolkeeper, because that gave him the opportunity to have both a house and a job, and it was, a useful occupation at those difficult times just after the war. So we went to Stroud Green first, and then we moved there to Ashford and Middlesex very, very soon after that. He didn't stay at Stroud Green for very long, probably 15 months, something like that. But he wanted a bigger house because we had a really big family, and went to Ashford.
So you had a really big family. You mentioned that you have a twin sister.
Yeah.
Who else?
There were 6 of us all together, 3 girls and 3 boys.
Wow. Okay.
All 4 years apart, apart from obviously the twins. We did ask Mum how come it was that all the children were 4 years apart, and she said, I was a fast runner.
Oh dear. So it was a busy old household growing up. Yeah. Where did you sit in those kind of 4 year in the 4 year stack? Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. My eldest sister was she actually died when she was 25, but
right.
She was 8 years older than me. So when we moved when we moved into Ashford, she was 13, so 13 coming up 14.
And do you mind me asking what your sister died of at 25?
She died actually in her husband's arms, having an aneurysm at the back of the neck.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my elder brother, who was 4 years older than me, he died actually at 36. So Mum had some terrible times then. He was walking through Twickenham High Street one day, and a trolleybus arm came off the trolleybus and fell on his head. And as a result, he got a tumour on the brain.
Right. Okay.
When he didn't do anything about it for a long time, but suddenly his arm started doing this sort of thing, and he had to go to the hospital and get it checked. And they said it was they couldn't take out enough to make a difference. But
Right. Okay.
and so on. But yeah, so
how tough?
He died at 36.
How tough was that for you, Les, as a younger sibling of both those?
Well, when Pat died, I was 16 and just started at work. And when Cliff died, I was 32. Very busy, obviously, with the young family. But it was hard. Yes, it was hard. I don't. It's strange how you often get on with one sibling a lot better than another, and but I didn't see a huge amount of either Pat or Cliff because of the age gap.
Yeah.
And the fact, I was off out with Jean from quite a young age, so I didn't see a huge amount of time, spend a huge amount of time with them as an adult, particularly.
And as a child, I guess, as a family post-war, trying to finance looking after 6 kids, that must have been tough on your mum and dad.
Very much so, yeah.
Really,
yeah.
I've got a picture of you here. How old are you in this one?
Do you know that is a school photograph?
It's quite the uniform.
That I just couldn't believe that when I picked that up from the school and took it home to Mum. Mum said to me, "Well, you might have pulled your socks up," as if that would make any difference. Say to me. And
so how old are you in that one, Les?
About 8, 9.
Okay. And were you, as a schoolboy, what sort of a character were you? Hardworking?
Not too bad. It's quite studious, really. Yeah.
Okay. And what were your aspirations growing up?
Well, to be an actor, I think, really. And a singer. Yeah.
And did you? How did you go about pursuing that as a child or as a teenager?
I didn't really very much until I met Jean, and then both of us used to act on the stage at the school, because that was one of the advantages of Dad being a schoolkeeper. We had the stage at the school to practice in, and there was a piano there as well. But
right. Okay.
Yeah, so Jean was quite the little actress in her time.
Well, let's talk about Jean then. Here's a picture of Jean there. Now, I don't know how old Jean is in this picture.
She's about 16. Yeah.
About 16. So you met when you were how old, yourself and Jean?
I was 14 and a half and she was 16. So that's roughly what she
met her. Was she now, Les? Right. Okay. Okay.
She came to choir practice one evening, and this sort of really elegant, demure, terrified young lady came to choir practice, and I showed her where the psalms were. And the rest is history.
There we go. So we'll come back to Jean in just a moment. But what were your hobbies or your passions? Was it the stage, kind of, in your teens?
Well, no, gardening probably. When Dad, as I say, was the caretaker in Ashford, he got the county to hive off an allotment in the corner of the school field, had a fence built round it, and had an allotment there. So he used to send the children over there to do allotment duties, as it were. He used to
Right. Okay.
he used to hide out the work, in other words.
Right.
One of the advantages of being a caretaker is that he could get us to go and stoke the boilers and clean the latrines and things. And I used to love doing things like that, using hydrochloric acid at the age of 7, and Mum saying, "You can't give him that to do," and he used to say, "He'll be fine." I was fine.
And you were. And you were. And gardening's a passion that you've maintained to this very day.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we'd go over there, and at that time with my elder brother Cliff, and we'd be planting lettuces at Dad's sport home, and there'd be loads and loads of lettuces, and I'd suddenly turn and see Cliff. I'd be horrified that he's tossing these lettuces over the railway line to get rid of them. And
oh, really?
Because we batted onto the railway line at school. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, God. I'm busily trying to plant every single one, but he wants to throw them away. But
yeah. Okay. Well, let's go back to Jean, because I do see you guys very much as a partnership, and we're talking about yourself, but of course she's been so integral to your story. You met at, how old did you say you were when you met? 14 and 16?
14, that's right. 14 and a half and 16, yeah.
Okay. So 14 and 16, and was it love at first sight, Les?
I wouldn't say so. No. I was very taken with her.
Yeah.
But obviously she had to teach me everything she knew first before I was only 14, so I didn't know it at all. So,
yeah. Okay.
She had her boyfriends, right?
So she was your first girlfriend?
Yeah, very much.
Your only girlfriend, which is pretty unique. Really, I don't know about back then. Maybe not so much back then, but certainly now, in this age of social media and dating apps and such like, it would be pretty unusual. So that's lovely. And I guess neither of you got anything to compare one another to, so that goes in your favor, Les, perhaps. Who knows?
It does, yeah. Yeah, if you've got a jealous nature at all, then it must be a problem if you've had lots of relationships before, which
yeah, lovely. Okay, so how long were you dating for before you popped the question?
We sort of were unofficially engaged, quite sort of 2 or 3 years into our relationship, but then I don't know when did I ask Dad, Jean? Do you remember?
19 I was.
Jean was 19 when I asked.
Okay.
Dad.
And is that the unofficial engagement or the official engagement?
That's
the official engagement, is it?
Was that the official engagement, Jean? Yeah.
Well, I'm intrigued. We need to unpack the unofficial engagement. What?
Oh, well, because we've been going out for quite some time, we just unofficially got engaged. Yeah, probably
just said
at Penton Hook or Virginia Water or something.
These are romantic spots.
Yeah. Because we were so young, you see. And everything took so long in those days. I mean, I was 6 months before I kissed Jean.
Was that right?
She kissed me, really. But...
Lovely. So you mentioned there asking Jean's dad. You went and did that first, presumably, and then was there a moment where you went on bended knee?
No, I don't think I did. Did I, Jean? Go on bended knee. No, she said that.
Oh dear. Okay, well, fine. And how soon after you'd asked for her hand in marriage were you wed?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. Yeah. And you got married at the local church?
Yes. Yeah. Where we were in the choir, and Jean, of course, was still in the choir at that stage. Yeah.
And I guess it's an era when church was more kind of the done thing than now. Was that the case? Were you both from families that attended church regularly? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, my dad and mum both worked for a Reverend John Basil Rust, who was a minister in St Audrey's in Somerset. He was the cook and she was the parlour maid. And I used to sort of catch him reading his Bible on his bureau from time to time. So yes, he did have a grounding in church, but he didn't used to go very often.
Right. Okay.
But he said to me one day, he said, "Son," he said, this was when I was about 7, it's time you went to church. So I toddled off to church and went to the choir practice on a Wednesday, and then on a Friday with the adults. My elder brother and elder sister were already in the choir at that stage, so I joined them.
Well, you've stuck with church. I don't know if there's been any kind of hiatus along the way, but was there a starting of a faith there, or was that just something that's kind of always been an acceptance that there is a God? And
not originally, no. Again, Dad said to me one day, he said, "Son." He always used to call me son. I never thought about that until sort of later on. Perhaps with 6 children, it's a bit difficult, isn't it? But he never used to call the daughter's daughter. So,
no.
But anyway, he said, "Son," he said, "do you know what the shortest sentence is that you can make out of the English language?" And I said, "No, Dad." And he said, "God is." Now you remember that, son, and you won't go far wrong. And I was standing in the choir one day, and we'd formed a cross with the choir, which we often did when you had a processional service, a service that was very special. And we'd formed this cross, and I was standing there, and these words came to me, and I thought, do you know I know what Dad means, and I had this sort of prickling up the back of my neck, you know how you get. And then later on, I thought I'm not too keen on the way the choir is separate from the rest of the church. They don't seem to get involved in things, and that's when I started to get involved in house groups and things, and learning rather more about the Bible, and bought myself commentaries and things, and had a mentor who was very, very useful. He used to come to our house groups, and he used to train people for the ministry, and he was really, really useful. Brought me along.
Having a mentor, was that a common thing to have a mentor? I mean, that sounds like quite an unusual thing. How did that come about?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I see him as a mentor because of his training and so on. But yeah, I used to go to him if I had a question, or yeah. I've always worried that I haven't done enough over the years. He was one of the people who said to me one day, "That was very good, Les, that study group. I enjoyed that. I just wish you'd do more with it," he said. Now, he never explained what he meant by that, but I've often wondered if I've done enough over the years.
Well, that's an interesting. Okay, maybe we'll come back to that a bit later. So let's talk about the wedding. Big day. I've got some pictures here. Looking dashing, and Jean looking radiant. And these are all your choir pals?
That's right. Yes, they all turned out. It was brilliant. Yeah, the choir master actually did the service for us. He was brilliant. Lovely man.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Okay, and then we've got you guys
Yeah,
in
signing the
the
register.
yeah, lovely stuff. And yeah, you're looking very dapper there, Les.
Oh
Very
no,
dapper indeed.
what
Very dapper
you could
indeed.
see what she saw in me then, but not when I was about 8 or 9.
Probably for the best. So you would have been you were 19 when you got married.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Education would have finished by that stage. So what were you doing
Finished
for
when I was
work?
15. Yeah.
15, right. So what did you do for work?
Well, when I left school, my dad came home that day and he said, "Son, I've got you a job." I said, "Have you, Dad?" He said, "Yep." So I said, "Well, what's that then, Dad?" So he said, "Mending cycle punctures." So I said, "Well, it wasn't quite what I had in mind for a career." So he said, "Well, if you don't take that job, you'll have to go down there and apologise to them, and then you've got to go and find yourself a job." And Dad was quite clever, really, because he knew that this cycle shop had a sideline of records.
Right. Okay.
And I was collecting records, as you can imagine, at that age,
Yeah.
and loved my record collection and spent a lot of time in this shop, so I knew them quite well. So I went down and apologised. And of course, I already knew Jean at that stage, and she worked for BOC. And I told her the story, and she said, "Why don't you go and apply to BOC and see if they've got any jobs?" She didn't put any
You're going to have to
strings.
unpack that for me. So BAC.
BOAC, yeah, British Overseas Airways Corporation. That's
Right.
the forerunner of British Airways.
Right. Yeah.
BOAC and BEA merged to make British Airways.
What was Jean doing there as a job?
She was in personnel.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went along there and applied for a role as what at BOAC?
At that time, it was I just asked if there were any jobs available. You see, and they said, "Well, there's a signals messenger." So I applied for that. And when I filled out my application form, I wasn't all that clued up with application forms, and I had an interview with the personnel person and the person from Signals, and the personnel person said, "I see you're an orphan." So I said, "No, I've got a mum and dad." So they said, "You put down as your next of kin your sister." Well, I had a twin sister, didn't I? I thought you can't get much closer to next of kin than a twin sister.
Oh,
So yeah, all a bit embarrassing, really, but I still got the job.
right. I'm keen to ask about the record collection. Do you still have the record collection?
Yeah, I do.
Do
Yeah, I
you?
do. Yeah, about
Wow.
1,000 records. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. And do you dust them off and play them from time to time still, or?
Not much now, I'm afraid.
No.
No.
No. Oh, lovely. Lovely though. Okay. In terms of work, you presumably you progressed along there from
Indeed,
the
yeah.
signals role. What came next?
I went from there to statistics, and then to eventually economics and economic planning. So planning the routes and frequencies for the next 15 years, actually.
Right. Wow.
Life of an aircraft.
Right. And as a role, was it quite all consuming? Was it because that sounds like quite a full on job? Was it?
Yeah. At times it was, because you just used to work until you finished the job, and it was time consuming. Yeah.
So the two of you are living in Ashford still in Middlesex.
Yeah.
And then children come along.
Actually, children came along before Ashford. We
Did they?
Yeah, we lived in a mobile home in Winkfield. So
Okay.
we had 2 children there, and then we moved to Ashford. Our first house was in 1967, November 67,
Right.
Then we had Darren, our last child, in Ashford, our first house.
Well, we've got a picture of Deborah.
You got a picture of that.
There she is.
She's absolutely gorgeous, isn't she?
That is a beauty. That really is. That's fantastic. Knowing Deborah, that is, yeah, it's a treat to see that one.
Yeah.
Did becoming a dad change you? I'm curious. You talked about your dad was certainly the way you talk about him. He was pretty firm but fair is the vibe I'm getting.
He was firm, yeah. He was a bit unusual, but
okay.
He was very much the sergeant major, and all those years in the army. And if he was shouting, Jean didn't used to come in. She would wait round the corner because she could hear him shouting outside. And
right.
I think, well, Jean's a bit late today. I wonder why that is. And I realised that Dad had shouted half an hour ago, and I'd go out.
Right. So did you carry any of that through to parenthood yourself? Did you make a conscious effort to try and be different to that? I'm just curious as a parent. Maybe I should ask your children really, but as a parent, what was your style?
Well, firm but fair, I hope. Because we had younger siblings as well. Or I had younger siblings, so I had some practice with them as well, because I had a sister who was 8 years younger than me. So a little bit of practice there. Whereas Jean was an only child, she had no practice.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. I've got a selection of pictures here, and maybe you can just unpack what's happening in this one. This looks a bit like you and your harem, to be honest, Les. But talk me through what's happening here.
Yeah, this is one of our house group photographs. When we had a number of house groups in Ashford, 5 or 6, and we used to have photographs from time to time, just to say which we used to share with the other groups,
right?
To say who was a member of the group.
And in this picture, can you age yourself in this picture? And are we kind of on par with where we're at with your story so far? Are we 3 children in?
Say that again.
Are we 3 children in at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jean's saying no.
No. Well, if not 3 children, close to 3 children. And of course, the house group thing is something you talked about house groups already. You've maintained that again to this very day. Why do you feel? You mentioned that maybe you worry you've not done enough. What was it? A vocational thing leading those groups? Is that something you've kind of felt a calling to do?
Yeah, to an extent, and just I don't think that that always people get the background of how you can use things like commentaries and so on, and learn about our faith, but also sometimes they're a bit stuffy, the study groups, and I like to make mine a little bit more light-hearted if I can, and take people through a paper, and try to to show them a significant thing each time if I can.
And spiritually for you, is that of some kind of encouragement for yourself doing that? Because I certainly know that if I've got a sermon to preach, that focuses me spiritually, and I'll drill down and stuff in a way that perhaps I wouldn't ordinarily do so. So maybe it gives you that fix.
Yeah, you learn more doing the preparation than you do actually at the meeting. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you worked for, I'm going to get this right, BAOC.
BOAC.
Oh, we'll go BA from now on, Les. We'll go BA. I can remember that.
Yeah.
So you worked for BA. Did you clock up any air miles? I mean, how does that work? Did you get discounts?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I left after 35 years with free travel twice a year. So all we could use really.
And you're still able to use that now?
Yeah, still able to use that.
Wow.
Yeah, and that includes Jean as well.
Brilliant. And did Jean carry on working at BA, or did she have to stay at home and look after the kids?
She stopped after 10 years. She was 10
Right.
years with BAC, yeah.
Now, one of the places I know you're very fond of is Barbados. With your free travel, why not? There's a picture. I believe it was dated 2003 when you sent it through.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's you in the sea. There is that you in the sea?
Jean in the sea, I think.
Is it? Oh gosh, sorry, Jean. Yeah. So yeah, and Barbados has become a bit of a regular holiday destination for you over the years.
Yeah, that first time was absolutely fantastic when we got off the plane, and because we were very, very late arriving in Barbados, it was dark, and Gavin, bless him, was crying because he didn't understand what all the noises were, and they were actually tree frogs. But
oh, really?
Yeah, and the crickets. And
right.
This lady came out of her house to greet us at, was it 11:30, Jean, or something like that? It was quite late, and she was in this white nightdress, and she looked like a ghost, I must say, but she was a lovely, lovely lady. And Gavin just burst into tears, and she explained to him that, oh, it's only the tree frogs and singing frogs.
Right.
And
how many times have you been back since?
25 times we went altogether.
Wow.
But that first time when we got up in the morning and went out and looked at, because we were right on the beach, it was absolutely unbelievable, beautiful. Pink sand, wide sand. A lot of that is gone. Unfortunately, the coral reefs have died, and as a result, the sand is now a little bit like the colour of our wall, really, but not that lovely pink shade that it used to be. But it's still lovely, and it's the people as well. They are smashing people in Barbados. Fantastic.
Have you got friends there that you kind of hook up with when you go back, or
no, just people that work. We do sort of chat to people, and they say, "Oh, I remember you," and no, we haven't got friends that we've made anymore. We've had them in the past, but they've since gone, unfortunately.
And with your affection for the place, have you ever thought of retiring to Barbados?
Yeah, we just looked at that very, very briefly, but decided not to.
Right.
We love it to go there for a fortnight, but we love home as well.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And I guess it's easier to recognize the beauty and wonder of creation in a place like Barbados than it is in Weston-super-Mare.
Yeah, especially with the tide out.
Right.
Yeah, Weston-super-Mare. Yeah, it was a lovely place. We did go there on a family holiday.
Yeah. Well, if you want to do a swap one year, I can line that up. That's not a problem. Okay, so let's move on to the three children then. How far apart were they in terms of ages?
Yeah, Deborah was born in 1965, Gavin in 1967, and Darren in 1976.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, and they again continue to grow up in Ashford.
Yeah.
The three of them.
Yeah.
And went on to have children.
Yeah, Deborah has got Emma and Karen, who's been to the church several times, and Gavin, we don't know about. We don't know if he's got children. We don't think he has, but we're not sure. We haven't seen him for 22 years. So,
Okay.
but Darren has got 2 children. He's got 2 girls. So we've got
Okay.
four grandchildren, all girls.
Okay. I can't help but go back on that one, Les. So you've got Gavin you've not seen for 22 years. So how old was he when you last saw him?
So he came to Darren's wedding, and that was the last time we saw him.
Okay, well, I've got a picture of Darren's wedding here.
That's right, and you can see Gavin, who's next to my brother, actually on the right as I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Okay. So on the far right or one inside? In the middle?
Behind Emma. So,
yeah. Okay. And so you saw him there 22 years ago, and haven't seen him since. And what?
No, we've had
what happened there?
A couple of phone calls, but we hadn't seen him for many years before the wedding as well. So over the period since he was about 18, I suppose, we hadn't seen him very much at all.
And what happened
missing
there?
for 6 years and then 8 years, and I think that what happened with him was he built up this background that was a little bit fictitious. He brought a girl down to see us here actually in about 1996, and she was a lovely girl, and we got chatting to her obviously, and she said, "I can't believe this. I had no idea that he had any family whatsoever." And I think that's how he's lived. He's sort of made up this sort of historic this history that was not really totally true. And if he admits to the fact that he's got family, then that destroys that history, if you see what I mean, that he's built up. But I think otherwise he lives pretty normally, if you can call that normal.
And what do you know what prompted the first kind of disappearance or the first lack of contact?
He had problems with money. He was gambling,
Right.
And we had a call from a chap that had given him a lot of responsibility at work, and he'd embezzled quite a bit of money from the wages actually of this firm, and he phoned me up and said that unless you bail him out, I'm going to go to the police and he'll get a police record. And at that time, Gavin was thinking about going to the States.
Right.
He'd met somebody and he was wanting to go to the States, and he said, I obviously might better go there with a police record. Could you bail me out? And we did. And we felt that we should be firm with it. So we did actually work out a system where he could pay us back over a period of time. We got a few payments back, but then he disappeared again. So we never got anything else.
And had your relationship up to that point, had it been okay?
No, there'd still been, I mean, when this happened, we hadn't seen a huge amount of him. He used to disappear and we'd not see him for months at a time. And it's tended to be when he's had problems that he's come back. But he rang us about 2 or 3 years ago in a mess, he said, and he told us about the fact that he'd actually got married. He married somebody in a hospice. She got cancer, and he married her before she died. And he then took on her house after she died. And he rang up and said, "I'm in a mess, and I'm not been working." And I said to him, "That's unusual for you, not working. You've always had a job." and he started to cry. And I said, what's the matter? He said, well, I never thought you'd ever say that I'd always had a job. I didn't. You thought much about my working side of things, and I said, ridiculous. I've always, yeah. So he somehow he built up this sort of whole background that was just a little bit cockeyed somehow.
And when you
That's the reason.
When you get that odd call from him, how, I guess it's mixed emotions.
Very, very much so, because whenever he rings, it's generally about 11 o'clock or 11:30 at night, and he's on the phone for about an hour, and we're tired, and we're invariably in bed when he rings. And obviously he doesn't ring very much, as I've said, but you're also worried that, you know, what's sort of coming, as it were, what problems are coming with it. So
when was the last time that you actually saw him? 22 years ago, did you say?
22 years ago, yeah.
And is there a longing from your perspective to I don't know, rekindle some kind of relationship?
Well, yes, of course, it's always there. And what I'm surprised about is how much the emotion flows when we do actually meet. On that time when his employer rang me up and said, you know, you'll have to bail him out, he came to us with the employer. And I couldn't believe the amount of emotion that flowed between us, and the love is there. It's it's very, very strange.
Okay. Let's get back to work, because you mentioned to me that you used a phrase in your email, outplaced. Is that something like a redundancy?
Yeah. Well, what happened was I was asked if I would like to take over a section. I was heading a long-term planning section, and we were doing 3 years out to 15 years out, which was the life of an aircraft. Okay, 15 years is roughly the life of an aircraft. And there was another section that were doing the first 2 years. That's the year after the budget, and the year after that they were doing that. And so I said, yeah, I'm actually doing those 2 years, because you can't project forward 15 years unless you've got those couple of years done anyway. So yeah, a lot of that work we're doing. So I'd be quite happy to take over that section. So looking forward to quite an uplift in the size of our team and everything. They suddenly called me in to say that they weren't going to bid for it. They were going to push it out to say engineering would do their forward planning, sales would do their forward planning, and they wouldn't have any central section at all. So they said, we're going to caringly outplace you. And I was still only 47, something like that. So I couldn't go at that time. So they put me in charge of a help desk for IT, managing a help desk. Well, it was. Right. I was doing economics, and one of the ways I got over any sort of nervous problems was by telling myself that you know more about this than they do, so don't worry about it. So if I had a meeting with the Board of Trade, say, then I was fairly calm, because I thought, well, yeah, I know more about it than they do. So, but yeah, I didn't know a lot about IT in those days. I was an Excel expert, but not not IT.
Yeah.
Not
so how long did you stay in that role?
I was covering for somebody on maternity leave for however maternity leave lasted. Was it about 9 months or something, and then that contract was extended for another year, so I stayed on for another year, and then I was asked if I wanted to take early retirement at 50, which I took the opportunity. So. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I'll make a confession, Les. I've known you for 25 years, and I've always seen you as quite senior because you were retired. And I was thinking 25 years on, when I was a 15-year-old, there was this kind of this retired chap, and I was thinking, surely he can't be that. I was doing the maths, and I was thinking, surely he can't be that old. So that makes some sense of things for me. So thank you. If nothing else tonight, I've learned that. So you retired at 50, is that right?
I retired at 50, but then of course, because I'd taken early retirement, I had lost a lot of the pension, so I couldn't live on that. So I had to do something between that and 65. So for 3.5 years, I was painting and decorating because I'd already been doing quite a lot. Yeah, I've been doing quite a lot of it at the church in Ashford.
Okay.
And somebody that worked for the diocese said, if you want to start up a business, I'll get church work to come your way. But it was going to be all too difficult. We were doing it on a very casual basis, and this was going to be very you can imagine,
Sure.
So we carried on. I carried on doing painting and decorating, mostly for old people's homes and old people, for 3.5 years. But then I started getting trouble with the joints.
Right. Okay.
Painting and ladder work was giving me JIP with rheumatoid arthritis.
Right. Okay.
That was diagnosed just before we moved down here, actually, and so I had to give that up. And
so the plan then was to retire to the South Coast,
where Jean came from, because Jean was born in Bournemouth. So
is that right?
Yeah, she was born
Whereabouts?
in Moordown.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Priory View Road, if you know the roads in Bournemouth. Yeah.
Right. So that had always been the plan, certainly for Jean.
Yeah. And for me, I loved it really. Yeah. So.
And what was it that brought you to Alderholt specifically?
We came off the M27 at Cadnam and sort of moved south, but we had been staying at a place in Dameron that was owned by somebody in Ashford, Middlesex.
Okay.
He had a place down here, and so we stayed there a couple of times. Actually, there was a Sacre looking after the place, funnily enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Joan Phillimore, her name was, and Catherine Patek knew her, but her maiden name was Sacre.
Right. And you moved down, and you threw yourself into life in the village pretty quickly. And I guess becoming a member of St. James kind of affords you that. Really, there are lots of opportunities for you to get involved with all manners of village life. I've got a few pictures. Where do we start? Let's talk about Panto. So, had you been treading the boards? We talked about, as a youngster, the aspirations to maybe do that for a living. Had you been doing sort of Amdram in the meantime?
Yeah, I did actually join a drama group in Hanworth. It was the Forge Lane Players, actually. They called themselves Flaps, which I thought was quite clever.
Yeah.
Forge Lane Players, and I did quite a few pantos and plays with them.
Right. Okay. Well, let's take a look at some of these pictures. There's you with young Stephen.
And
what else have we got? There we as a Boy Scout, is that there?
She's frightening the life out of me. She is, yes.
And there's dear Amanda.
Indeed, yeah. Who's often my beau on stage, yes.
Yeah, you forged quite the partnership, the two of you.
Yeah. we did.
And I've got a lovely picture of the two of you at the Queen's Jubilee. Talk us through what was happening here.
Yes, Pip said he wanted us to. He wanted Amanda to play the Queen and me Prince Philip, and that's the result. And I'd often been called over the years Prince Philip because I looked a little bit like him, evidently.
Right.
But my dad was even more so like him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but.
And you kind of, you've how long have you been doing the pantomime for now? It must be around about 25 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, getting on that way. Yeah.
And you plan on continuing with that for as long as you're
I hope
able?
so. It's very good for the brain and things, learning the lines and so on. It does mean that I'm out for a long time in the winter, but
yeah. And church life, you've taken on a few roles at church. You are known to my children as the Glory to God man, which is not a bad nickname, I guess. And in fact, I've got a very short video to play you. This is going back, I guess it must be 3 or 4 years ago now, when we were in Interregnum, and I used to have to go and open up the church. And they say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery, don't they? So I'll let you take a quick look at this. There won't be a moment. Let's have a. Yeah, there it is. So that was him trying to do your Peruvian Gloria at 7 o'clock in the morning one morning before I went to work. But yeah, you've kind of thrown yourself into the life of the church. We talked about study groups earlier. You were in the choir as well, I think. Is that right?
Yes, it was. From the age of 7 and right the way up until with the odd lapse when we were busy with the children and so on. But mostly up until we moved down here in 1995.
Wow.
So
yeah,
long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of brings us to present day. How old are you now, Les? I mean, you've kind of told me when you were born, so you're just doing the maths for me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 1942. So what am I? I'm 79 next month. There you go.
79 next month.
79.
I hope you don't mind me asking you this, but I did ask Christine, and in fact I asked Lewis as well in episode 2. I wonder, as you grow older, have you thought more about your mortality, and have you got any regrets, or unfulfilled aspirations, I guess?
Yeah, very much so. Often think about whether I've done enough. I was given a voice, and I've tended to shirk a lot of that, whether I've used it enough. A singing voice, I mean.
Yeah.
I had a better voice as a child than I did when it broke, because I carried on singing, which you're not supposed to do. So I can't sing for as long as I used to as an adult, but because I used to sing all day long as a child. So yeah, I've always been quite nervous in church singing, whereas on stage I'm not too bad. I don't get too bad on stage.
Why do you think that is? That's an interesting one.
Hiding behind a character, perhaps. Whereas if I'm in church, I'm myself. I don't know.
Okay. But aside from that, no real regrets.
No, not really. No.
And in terms of aspirations, kind of, any kind of, I don't like using the phrase bucket list, but anything in particular that you've still you're keen to tick off?
I would love the opportunity if it were possible. Like on is it Scrooge? I think it is that he has the opportunity to go back and view his early life, and I'd love the opportunity to do that, but with an adult mind, if you see what the word, with a mature mind, should I say, and perhaps adjust one or two bits as well, if I can.
What would you adjust?
Oh, not saying that. Once or twice when my mouth's run away with me, mostly. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Good. Look, we're going to finish up in a minute. I want to say a massive thank you, Les, for giving up your evening to talk to me, and it's really good to get to know you a bit better. There is the opportunity for folk to ask questions. They can come in, or alternatively, they can ask on the chat. Of course, I know that a lot of people will be watching this retrospectively, and so there won't be the opportunity for that. But they can catch you, on email or well, just on email. Actually, realistically, at the moment, isn't it the way things are?
Yeah.
But yeah, just a huge thank you, and Jean. Demure Jean, as you described earlier on. Thanks for all the help in terms of the stuff that Les had forgot as well. In terms of key dates, you were very good with you when we were chatting earlier. You were very good at you reeled off a date to me straight away. Was it the date you were married, or the date that you met, or?
We met in July 1956. And we had our first kiss on January the 5th, 1957.
Well, there you go. There you go. Oh dear. Well, look, there's lots of love for you online. So thanks so much, Liz, for like I say, giving up your evening. It's been brilliant to hear a bit more of your story. And I guess we should say Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas to you. And it'll be a different one this year. I know that you and Jean are planning on just the two of you there.
Yeah, but we love our company, and yeah, we're very blessed. We love each other very deeply, and we love spending time with each other. So.
And isn't that brilliant that you have, all these years later, you still have that bond, that friendship, where you're not driving. Well, I'm sure you do drive each other up the walls from time to time, but you're just so comfortable and happy in one another's company. It's yeah, it's lovely stuff. So our love goes to Jean as well, very much so. And yeah, have a lovely Christmas, and thank you those of you that are tuning in the aftermath of all of this. Thanks for watching, and we wish you a happy Christmas. And there'll be another episode of my story coming sometime in the new year. I've got a few people lined up, so we'll get to know a few more people that little bit better. But for now, Les, thank you very much for sharing your story. It's appreciated.
Thank you very much indeed, baby.
Thank you.